Hello, welcome, and happy holidays from everyone here at True Sports. Welcome back to another edition of the Ultras on TS. I'm the host, Josh Piercy, as always, joined by Jeff Lall and Kurt Black. And today, we have the pleasure of being joined by sportscaster and writer Brendan Dunlop. Brendan, pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Apologies if I'm pessimistic, but I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, and as we've recorded this, I still haven't healed from their devastating loss to the Jets.
Oh, well, my condolences, man, and my condolences to Jets fans, too. They're losing out on that Trevor Lawrence lottery after all, it seems. All right, before we get going here, gentlemen, just a reminder to all the fans there, if you like the content, hit the like button, and remember to subscribe to True Sports on Instagram as well as YouTube. All the links for that are down below. All right, fellas, we start, as always, it's a classic London derby, Chelsea versus Arsenal, and Saturday was no exception, as the Gunners got their first win since November 1st, with a 3-1 win over Chelsea. The Gunners have had trouble putting the ball in the net as of late. Brendan, what did you make of Arteta's side, and what did they do right yesterday to get that big win?
I thought it was insane how they came together. It's the best they played. That first half was the best first half of football I've seen them play in probably a calendar year, to be honest. I think that they were fueled by the criticism and the fact that they had a real opponent who the pressure was on to deliver a result against Chelsea. And, even at that level, it seems crazy, but players know when it matters just a little bit more. And that seemed like it was very much one of those games where they knew that they had to dig deep. Otherwise, they'd have a tough time just getting home and going about their day. So it's a real shame as Gooners out there see them suffer and struggle against teams they should be beating. But they came to play in a game that really mattered. So at least for one day, Arsenal fans could feel like they support a big club again, and they'll be pretty happy with that.
And well, Jeff, Arteta did mix up the lineup a little bit before the game. Gabriel Martinelli returning to the squad, getting his return to the lineup. Is giving the youth a chance at Arsenal really the key to them kind of kickstarting the rest of their season?
Yeah, I think rotating the squad a lot with a lot of players on that squad are really struggling. Obviously, Aubameyang infamously struggling this season. But, and I think, Brendan, you made a great point that this is probably the best they've looked in a calendar year. They look dominant, like you said, like a top six side. It was really impressive, and, I'm happy for them because realistically, football is no fun without rivals, and if they get relegated, that would be a shame. But I just want to point out that, you guys know me, I don't really like completely tearing apart people in terms of, like, who they are, especially in their careers, but Frank Lampard is just Frank the Fraudulent for me because he is by far the biggest fraud of a manager I think I have ever seen in the Premier League. Like, he is so overachieving with this side. And, it's so basic. And in today's football, we know it's so much more than just getting a great playmaker like Hakim Ziyech or a great striker like Timo Werner. It's so much more than that. And it's a shame that, what brought him to the dance, I've said before, is the youth, all the young players, Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, right? And he has kind of brought them on a little bit. But overall, at the start of the season, he said, being a youth academy coach is great, but, you want to win trophies. And he just decided to completely abandon them and bring in a bunch of guys for over $200 million. And you know what? I think it's going to come back to hurt him. And I think we're finally seeing that now. And I'm kind of happy, to be honest.
Well, Brendan, that's 3 losses in the last 4 games for Chelsea. How long until we start to see the pressure really mounting over Frank Lampard?
Oh, I think the pressure is there. I think with the money that they spent, the expectation is that they're at the top of the table, or certainly, in the top 3, without the doubts and the question marks that we've had. For them to be opened up against Arsenal too, that only heightened the criticism. I mean, I don't think it's all on Lampard. I said this when he was hired. I thought it was moved too soon. I think he could have marinated a little bit longer at Derby. I think he was really learning the game the right way, and the way he worked with young players. We saw that evident last year when he wasn't able to buy any players. Mason Mount was exceptional. Obviously, they have a long history together. Tammy Abraham did it in the championship. Not many people thought he could do it in the Premier League, and he did. But with the resources available at Chelsea, I don't think it was ever his call to not spend 220 million or 200 and get some of the best players out there. That's always been Chelsea's model, to keep those star players out of the hands of their biggest rivals too, right? So I think he knew that was always going to come eventually. And how do you balance? How do you manage a room like that? How do you get the best out of those high-level players and then players that maybe had been overachieving? And it's unfortunate to see that they haven't been able to do that and integrate those guys, because I had very high hopes for Timo Werner and Kai Havertz, and they may still come good in the Premier League. I think that Havertz has looked poor. Surprisingly, I think he definitely would have benefited from staying at Leverkusen, but there's still some time for Chelsea. But if performances against big clubs like Arsenal and performances like we saw the other day keep mounting, then Lampard might not be there to see it out.
All right, well, with the top of the table so tight right now, it just got a little more condensed. As earlier, Liverpool drew 1-1 with Sam Allardyce's new side, West Brom. Jeff, do you put this down more to Liverpool's injury problems right now, or was this just a classic Allardyce special?
You could, I think it's a bit of both, right? Like, I mean, Sam Allardyce is just known for this, and the whole game, it was looking like his whole saying, oh, I'm going to finally get at Jose and Pep and Klopp again. And he did. But you know what, man? These Liverpool fans, as we all know, my friends, a lot of them, keep complaining about injuries left, right, and center. But I don't know how they're missing so many stars when, I mean, look, Virgil van Dijk is the best center back in the world right now, and there's no disputing it. But they still have Sadio Mane. I'm pretty sure he's very, very, very good. I'm pretty sure Mo Salah is very, very good. And I'm pretty sure Bobby Firmino is really, really good. And shouts to my friends who were saying, oh, they struggled to break down low blocks last year. Who do you think of when you think of low blocks? You think of probably Burnley. You think of Newcastle. You think of Sheffield. They beat all of them, and they beat most of them by 3 goals. So they've never had an issue of breaking down low blocks. It's just that they finally ran into someone who knows how to get at them, and they failed, honestly. They failed to get a point where they're always supposed to get a point.
Well, with the Premier League table so tight right now, one team that's kind of surprised to be there, Aston Villa, sitting in 7th place right now, a 3-0 commanding victory over Crystal Palace over the weekend. Brendan, what is it from Villa that's made them so successful this year after just missing relegation last year?
Oh my God, it's amazing, man. So allow me to get my bias out there that I'm a long-suffering Aston Villa fan, and these last few weeks and months of this new season have been unbelievable. To wake up expecting 3 points is something that Aston Villa fans are not used to. I think Dean Smith was always the right guy for the club. Had they been relegated, and it was just one goal that kept them up on that final day of the season, the COVID interrupted season, he wouldn't be there, and the fortunes would be totally different for that team completely. But they've invested so well. I really love the purchases they made. Ollie Watkins, Ross Barkley really showed to be a player with something to prove when he was healthy. And as long as Jack Grealish stays healthy, I really love what Villa's got cooking right now. I don't think they're going to make the Champions League, but it's crazy that, at Christmas and the turn of the calendar, we're talking about not qualifying for the Europa League as being disappointing. I think that's within reach for Villa, and I'd love to see them do it.
And they're a massive club, it has to be said, historically a massive club in England, and it'd be great to see them kind of pushing that top 6 yet again. All right, let's move away from England for a moment over to the Serie A. And one day, Juventus took a 6-point swing after a loss, and of course, their Napoli game being rescheduled. Milan still sitting at the top of the table. Kurt, that table is also really tight right now. What do you see from either one of those clubs to kind of push away and run away with the title race in Italy?
Well, as everyone knows, I'm a big Bianconeri fan and supporter, and it was a really tough day. First you start with the news. We had our producer, Mikey, messaging me about the appeals court going on Napoli's favor, which I have my opinions about. I don't agree with them. And then, of course, Juve had the most disastrous showing on the pitch. That was, without a doubt, the worst showing I've seen in the last year. And I've been really behind Pirlo since his hiring, but I just don't understand the inconsistencies at this point. So I can't believe I'm saying it, but the Milan clubs, especially AC Milan, led by Ibrahimovic, are really running away with it right now. They have a 10-point lead at least on Juve. And we're going to have to see a very new Turin club when the new year comes around, because what we've seen has been really disappointing. One game against Parma, which I thought was super impressive. I thought they could really follow that up and get a good run going. And again, it's just one step forward and 2 steps back for Pirlo's men. And there's only so much, and I've been saying this all year, so much that Ronaldo and Morata can do. We're going to have to see a lot more from Paulo Dybala. But that being said, you have to be very impressed with both AC Milan and Inter Milan. Inter Milan has had a really disappointing European campaign, but they're right up there with their city rivals. And it's going to be a really entertaining race to the finish. I still think, of course, Juve's got a lot in the tank. But, there's going to be a point where they're going to have to decide whether they want to prioritize Champions League success or really push to get that 10th straight Scudetto, which would be amazing. But we all know that the Champions League is really the star in their eye.
Well, it's a very Merry Christmas for AC Milan fans as they lead the table for the first time at Christmas in a very, very long time. Someone who perhaps didn't have such a Merry Christmas, Thomas Tuchel, found a sack underneath his tree this Christmas Eve as the German was sacked by PSG on December 24th after his appointment in 2018. The sacking coming after a loss in Ligue 1 to the leaders Lyon on December 13th, followed by a draw to Lille. Paris sit third in the table right now, but they are on to the round of 16 in the Champions League. Kurt, what do you make of the timing by this decision by Paris to move on from Tuchel?
Well, it's kind of a similar feeling, I think, to where Juve is, where they're not where they are or where they want to be in the table. And they decided that right now we're going to start fresh going into the new year and hope that a change can impact this team for the better. But looking at the team's performances, yes, as you said, they're third. They're not leading the way in a farmers league, as some people like to see it. But if you look at their statistics, they're strong. They're the top scoring team, and they've allowed the least amount of goals in the whole league. So the numbers are there. They just haven't got the results. And if I'm a new coach coming into PSG, I'd be slightly concerned because, there's always rumors that Mbappe is going to be out the door at the end of the year and Neymar is going to be out the door. So there's going to be a lot of pressure because, they had a great year. They went to the Champions League final. They were this close to European glory, similar again to Juve, that one thing that's evaded them over these years. It was kind of shocking. But that's the way, football has been. It's what have you done for me lately? And unfortunately, they weren't at the top of the table. And, these big money clubs, they're not afraid to cut ties and move on to the next guy.
Tuchel was never the right fit there. Tuchel was the development coach, and he thrived at that. And going from Dortmund to PSG, that was never going to be on the cards. And that room there is just so strange. There's not too many clubs run like that where the star players, are texting and calling and having lunch with the chairman. Are they undermining the manager in that sense? And you just never felt like that club really was playing for Thomas Tuchel. And you look at this season, I don't think he ever looked like he enjoyed being there. So happy trails to him. And if I was Mauricio Pochettenio, I think the reason that wasn't official as immediate as people assumed, I think, is because he's weighing his options. Is this really an environment I want to walk into? Will I be able to succeed in this type of environment, or take this team to the top? Because the way things are at the moment, it's not as appealing a job as it should be.
Well, Jeff, as Brendan said, reports now indicate that Mauricio Pochettenio, former Spurs manager, is set to follow Thomas Tuchel at Paris. Going from one man who lost in the Champions League final to another. How do you think the former Spurs manager, will fare in Paris if he indeed is appointed as manager?
Brendan brought up a pretty good point. It's something I didn't even think about. Thomas Tuchel is sort of that guy who's really good at youth development. I think he's really strong tactically too, but maybe with a squad like that, you don't need to do as much. I do think maybe he should have stayed a little bit longer because he did get them so far. He did get them to the Champions League, and I believe he did set a record 2 years ago in Ligue 1 for, I think, the time in which he won the title. But, I mean, moving on to Poch, I just think to myself, like, how is he going to do any better? What exactly is he going to do? And is he going to actually hurt himself? Because he's in kind of a bad position, right? They're kind of backed up. Yes, their talent says that they should be doing better, and they probably should climb back to the top. But what if they don't? What if they don't win anything? And then there's just yet another season with him not winning trophies. But this time he actually does have the resources. This time he has one of the best players in the world in Neymar. He has another one in Mbappe. He has great players on that squad, and they're just so a level above of Ligue 1 that there's no way that they should be losing that crown. So to me, Josh, I'll ask you, as someone who's kind of got him near and dear to your heart, would this hurt to see him basically come away trophyless yet again?
Well, as a Spurs fan, I wish all the best for Mauricio Pochettino. I've never really seen Paris as the destination for him. One part of the problem I think Thomas Tuchel had in Paris was he was unable to kind of manage the players in the way that he wanted to. Mauricio Pochettino, we remember, was a great player manager. He got the best out of a lot of guys who didn't play the best. during their career in Tottenham. Guys like Eric Dyer, who really kind of came out as stars. He got the best out of Dele Alli, who's a guy who Mourinho seems to not be able to get the best out of right now. I think he's probably the best available manager, and if he wants the job, he's the guy that you have to give the job to right now. And like you said, Jeff, he has the resources, and the January transfer window is only a week away. And from there, we'll move on. It's that time of year again. January is just around the corner. Top transfer targets this year who were reportedly going to be on the move. Christian Eriksen hasn't had a great time in Inter Milan. Hassim Aouar of Lyon, he's had his suitors for years now. David Alaba has rejected a new contract at Bayern. And Dele Alli, who, of course, is out of favor. First, guys, I kind of just want to throw it out there. January is not really a time where we see a lot of big moves historically. Is that doubly so this year, Brendan, with the COVID-19 pandemic and the financial structure of a lot of clubs in the world right now?
Yeah, I think so, 100%. I was just going to say that this is going to be the kind of the strangest January transfer window, because there will be a few moves of key players and there'll be some big money thrown around, I think. But I think the volume, you're going to see a lot less. You're going to see teams that are on the fringes, or teams that feel as though that, they're within striking reach of Europe, or, need to spend big in desperation to avoid relegation, but might not take the risks they would have taken in years past. So, yeah, I think Eriksen, maybe Dele Alli would move, but I don't think you're going to see anywhere near the volume or the activity that we're used to seeing in January.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there are still rumors of Paul Pogba maybe getting a move, Jadon Sancho maybe getting a move, but the likelihood of that happening right now seems to be pretty small. Kurt, with the table so tight right now around the world, of course, there are going to be teams who are going to be beefing up and getting some reinforcements. Who do you expect to reinforce their squad in this January transfer window?
Well, I think we've talked about them. They're going to be the big money clubs that have more cash to splash, that are a little desperate, like Juventus, like PSG, that see the title still in reach and have holes in their lineup that they need to fill. Like, there are some bargain buys out there. Like Eriksen, rumors are that he can go for $10 million. Even Memphis Depay, which I don't know if he would even be a fit at either club, but for $5 million, why don't you just take a flyer? He's a very talented guy. I see those being the moves. Talking about Paul Pogba and Jadon Sancho, those have always been moves that just scream summer transfer, because there needs to be a lot of time and there's a lot of finances that need to go into that. So I don't see any of those happenings, unfortunately. I would love to see Paul Pogba coming back to Italy, but till the summer, my friend, till the summer.
Well, what about a guy like Paulo Dybala? Could you possibly see him moving in January?
Oh, that's tough, because he's had a real down year this season. Coming off the Serie A MVP last year, which in my belief was his best season. He's been down. I don't know if that has anything to do with COVID or not adapting to Pirlo's game plan, but he just doesn't have a place currently. And I know a lot of teams in the Premier League were very much interested in him. And if he wants a fresh start, I think the only way he would leave Juve is he asked for his way out, because, he's still such a talented, dynamic player. I don't see Pirlo forcing him out.
Maybe if he pulled a little bit of a James Harden, he could find his way out of Juventus sooner than later.
Well, he'd have to gain some weight for that.
And could you picture him with a beard, Paulo Dybala with a giant beard like that?
Nice. Absolutely not. He looks like a 12-year-old boy. I could not picture him with a big beard like that.
Well, Messi did it. We couldn't have pictured Messi with a beard like that, and he did it for a long time. Now when he does shave, it looks strange.
Fair enough. Very true. All right, lads, as we approach full time on 2020, it was a bit of a crazy year. I'm sure we can all agree. But Jeff, let's take a look back and, highlight some of the big moments from the year. What was your favorite, or maybe what you see as the most significant moment from the year that was 2020?
Well, I'm going to kind of bring it back a little bit here to Canada. I think it was just huge. I mean, also just a great story generally, barring even Canada, the Canadian bias in general. But Alphonso Davies, his rise to prominence was just incredible to watch. And he's just such a charismatic guy, so fun to watch, so fun to he's just an easy guy to root for, right? I mean, he's got all the talent in the world, and you're seeing that. And his, just the way he's jumped up a level, playing a position that he hadn't played before in a level that he had never achieved before at the age of 19 years old, nutmegging Semedo, things like that. I mean, he was just incredible. He was the thing that was keeping me smiling during 2020. So I'll go with Alphonso Davies.
Kurt, we'll move on to you. I know that you like to keep it Canadian. There's a big milestone for one of the greatest Canadian soccer players ever this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Alphonso Davies definitely stole the hearts of Canada for absolutely. But, Christine Sinclair, for what, her whole career, scoring goal 185 this year, passing the great Abby Wambach for most international goals of all time. She's been, such a legend for the Canadian game for so long, before we had, stars of Alphonso Davies' caliber. And, just the way that she's built the game, throughout her career. And now that she's on top, it did come back all the way in January of 2020, which seems honestly like 10 years ago. But we can't forget how monumental that milestone is. And, it was a great, great achievement.
It's hard to believe that came all that time ago. You're right, Kurt. January feels like 25 years ago at this point. Brendan, I'll throw the question on to you. I know it's going to be difficult to pick one moment from 2020, but if you could, your favorite moment.
Yeah, well, I would have picked both of those, so I'm glad you guys went first to give it the full shout. I was actually in Texas when Christine Sinclair scored that goal, and it does feel like it was 25 years ago. Just remarkable. But I'll keep it Canadian and go with the Canadian Premier League executing their second season in the bubble in Prince Edward Island, because I think you look at the Canadian Football League, the CFL, with much more established roots and a real, corporate presence, and they weren't able to put together a season. And the Canadian Premier League, in just their second year, they were still able to execute a full campaign, quote unquote, and introduce a brand new club. And I think really garner a lot of excitement for Canadian football and development. And really, it was a huge success. And now you have Forge FC as a power in CONCACAF that teams around the world, around the Caribbean, and the region in CONCACAF we're paying attention to. So yeah, huge steps for Canadian soccer all around with all those three. It's exciting.
And it has to be said, with the year that we've had in 2020, it's incredible that we can even have the privilege of being able to watch football in all capacities around the world right now. So my favorite moment was when it finally came back. I remember watching those first Bundesliga games when it finally came back. It was absolutely incredible. All right there, guys, that's all the time we have for this week's edition of the Ultras on TS. Again, happy holidays. Please remember to give the video a like and subscribe to True Sports on YouTube and Instagram. And if you like what we said, our personal info is also available in the description below. For Jeff Wall, Kurt Black, and Brendan Dunlop, I'm Josh Piercy. We'll see you next year on the Ultras on TS.